Buongiorno, buon pomeriggio, e buonasera, Lazio world. Welcome to your instant reaction pod. Consider this a little stoppage time as we review Venezia versus Lazio. Now, I am your co-host, Sean McIntosh, joined by my good friend, Caleb Adams. Caleb woke up at 5:45 a.m., skipped my morning workout, woke up early, real tired. I'm thinking, all right, at least I'm hoping for some goals, some fireworks. We're playing, no disrespect to Venezia, but they're a Serie B side, a lot to play for, a lot on the line. All right, it's time for a good Saturday. MLS is kicking off this week. We got Charlotte FC tonight. I'm feeling good. Womp, womp, womp. I should have just taken the sleep. Should have taken the sleep. How you doing after that snooze fest?
My goodness, I heard it in your voice coming in with the intro. It's just crappy. I mean, that's just the nicest way to put it, really.
Yeah. Well, let's jump in. There's definitely stuff we gotta kind of cover. Probably not a lot of good, but
Well, let me jump in there real quick too. Another signifier of how I'm feeling is I didn't even bother putting on a jersey today. How pathetic that was. I'm so embarrassed. I said I'm not even gonna put on a kit
you
today for
got
this
the classic
episode.
Caleb neutrals, like no life, just
It's just, oh my goodness. I'm just so, what a pathetic performance that was.
yeah. Well, the starting 11, I know, was probably as exciting as it gets in terms of what we witnessed, because there was one big change, a change that I know you in particular have been clamoring for on this podcast, but it's is the change in goal, and we saw Provedel being benched for Mandas, who gets his first Serie A start of this season, and then we see, obviously Noslin gets the nod up top with Tati out injured, and then Dele Bashiru in Rovella's spot, who from yellow card accumulation suspended for this match. But aside from that, it's your typical cast of characters, and this match, I don't know, it was pretty indicative early on of what it ended up being for much of the game. Not a ton happening. Really, a lot of players who usually play with a lot of dynamism, or were kind of walking and slow to react, slow to build up. It really wasn't until the 23rd minute that we even really entered the final third, and it's with a beautiful ball from Zaccagni, who lays it off perfectly to Dia in the box, who does a nice enough job to put himself in position, get the right touch, and then bungles it so badly, so much so that it was harder to miss the frame than or sorry, it would have been, it was harder to do what he did than actually score the goal. It was quite honestly just a horrific display, which is it's from him, somebody who is so clinical inside the box. And really, Caleb, that was the story of the match. You go the rest of the 90, and there wasn't much to it from Lazio's side. Venezia late in this one seems to be the one on the front foot, something to play for, a couple chances, Amanda save late. And we kind of put our heads down and wonder what the hell happened. And really, really disappointing. So give me your 3 words for this one.
Checked out mentally. It honestly just felt like the team was like, you know what? After that draw against Napoli, let's just kind of chill out in league play and just focus on Europa at this point. It just seems that the team is They were just completely checked out mentally. It looked like I was watching a preseason match at times, from just like the sharpness, the effort, the touches. It looked like I was watching a pre. I'm like, am I? I mean, I just been watching MLS preseason, and we look. I think I saw some teams that look sharper than we did in MLS preseason than Lazio today. So it just seemed like the team just checked out mentally, and I don't know where that's stemming from. It's a bit concerning considering we were able to step up against Napoli. The mentality was there. And this year, to be fair to us, we've done a good job of just sort of like dusting these games out, getting them done, and moving on. Our challenge this year has been sort of the bigger teams, but against smaller sides, we've done the job in most cases. But I just so weird. It's just so bizarre how it seemed like one or two players came to play today.
Yeah, and it makes no sense. Like you never want to see a team come in and sleepwalk or not have a mentality or not have urgency. Like you never want to see that. But we can discuss maybe the why behind it. And I'm sorry, there's just no excusable reason for it today. Full week under your belt. You've got you've got a Napoli performance that you should be seething over. Like
Mm-hmm.
you dominated that match. You should have
Yep.
walked away with 3 points. You should feel good about your performance and where you stand. Wasn't the result, but you've got a full week. Prepare for Venezia. The schedule only gets harder. Must win match. Go out there, fight for this. And there's still everything to play for. And I don't know, it makes little sense. There's no reason to be tired. There's no reason to dust this one off. Like it's just infuriating. It's and we'll talk about Baroni because Patrick on here just jumping the gun a little bit on Bidones, but we'll spend some time on Baroni because I we've always since the beginning of the season we've talked about some mentality or some like there's been some strong mentality, but then against the bigger sides we wonder what's going on. Lack of focus, a lot of the problems early on in the season, conceding goals early, and today was concerning in that you got to get that side ready for a match like this, and there's no reason to go a full 90 minutes. Like usually we're complaining about, well, Lazio waited too late to turn it on. They didn't turn it on until the 75th. There was no turning it on today. It was the same as it was when it started. So my 3 words, arrivederci Champions League. I mean, to me, it really is like, of course, we're mathematically still in there. You've got, as the table stands, Napoli, Inter, Atalanta, and Lazio is in the top 4. Lazio with 47 points, only 1 point ahead of Juve, who obviously hasn't played their match this week. I believe they play Cagliari, and it's going to take a miracle for Juve to drop that, especially given kind of the form that they've been in. Fiorentina now back in this. They're only in 42 points, but a game in hand, and now it kind of creeps in and allows Milan to have a runway to it. So I just knowing how difficult the schedule gets and how much better some of these other sides are looking. I don't know, Caleb. I guess you check me on this. Like, where are you at on our Champions League hopes?
I mean, it would be like if it was a different season, I would be like, yeah, this is completely dusted. But like so many of the sides that we're competing against also are very similar to us in that them sometimes they just don't show up and they get beat by a random team. Fiorentina, Juve. Juve is getting better, but even them, they're prone to just dropping points. Milan, I don't trust Milan either. Milan are like the epitome of inconsistency. So a lot of these teams that are competing for fourth, don't aren't for me aren't really like solidified, Champions League sides. You've been maybe the closest at this point. and now with probably the primary competition we have, I'm not giving up just yet. However, Juve have a cakewalk of a season for the rest of the few months here. Um, and odds are definitely stacked against us, particularly with how many competitions we're balancing here. However, like I said, these like a big reason we're even in the race right now is because the teams around us have been dropping points left and right for quite a few weekends, right? I mean, if some of these teams had capitalized earlier, I mean, Lazio might not even be in the position they are. So it's been a season like that. So I don't think it's completely over, but for me, that was a huge blow, huge blow. I mean, are we going to look back at this? Are we going to look back at the season at the end of the year, and are we going to be maybe 2 points out from a Champions League spot, right? 1 point out. We could look back to this game.
Yeah. And I hear you. Like these sides that we're up against have all been underperforming all season long. Juve just seems to be a different side with the addition of Kuluman. Like they're just in Serie A right now, and I know they're coming off a disappointment against PSV and champions, but in Serie A, it just but we'll see, and we know this league can turn its heads upside down, and Cagliari, for all we know, can come out and do us a big favor this weekend. But man, these are the ones you have to have that you end up looking at the end of the season and saying, well, we narrowly missed it by 2 points, a point, and it's it comes down to matches like these where like so much that just wasn't right. What do you think? I don't know, because I was literally trying to analyze this match and be like, well, is there something Venezia is doing? And I didn't see anything. Like, what did you see? Like, why was it such a stalemate? Why was it so hard for us to break them down?
My opinion on what I saw was that I just thought the team was just poor individually, just as individuals across the board. Bad touches, weird decisions. Even Tavares couldn't beat anyone today.
Didn't even try though. Like that's
And like
I, I just,
he when he tried to, I mean, he had a few cases where he even tried to play a pass out of the back on several occasions, soft pass, intercepted. Like people were gonna get on Baroni, but I just think individually, every single player was. I'm not even almost every player was just completely off, particularly guys like Tavares that you really rely on in a match like this. Like this is a game where you expect Tavares to combine with Zaccagni to cause havoc and sort of move sort of the defense over to that side. But like you said, when Tavares isn't even attempting to make attacks, it makes things really easier for Venezia to defend against, right? And then on the right side, we have Isaacson, who can't use his right foot. Marusic is not going to be overlapping. So at that point, you all you have to do is defend his Isaacson's left foot, force him to the right. There's going to be no support. It makes your job so easy.
yeah.
So that's kind of what I was seeing out there.
Yeah, I've talked about that Rovella is our MVP, and obviously we were without him, and you see the difference that makes, particularly in just like finding the right passes, controlling so much of the game. But I've said time and time again, like Nuno is the key to our attack because he does open things up and causes a defense to shift so much focus. It opens up space for everybody. And he today, maybe it was fitness, maybe he has a knock, but he was out there, and the performance that we saw was dreadful. We know we can complain about some of the stuff defensively, but usually it is a massive net positive because of what he does in attack. It was a stroll in the park for him today. I mean, he wasn't. There were plenty of times where he had loads of space in front of him, and I'm like, okay, Nuno, like do it, do what you do, and it wasn't like it was. Zaccagni kind of dropping back, having to take the ball off of him, and I don't know that. And that piece all of a sudden makes everything else so easy to defend. Just sit back, and you don't have anybody else aside from Zaccagni that really is gonna attack and try and cut into that final third. Um, really, really easy to defend, and the tempo. Patrick Bowman saying it right here, but just like our tempo, like usually it's a Baroni side. It's got a lot to it. We leave ourselves a little bit open for counters, but man, today it was slow, so slow.
I I wonder how much of an effect on that sort of push and urgency it was to not have Tati or Rovella, who both tend to set such a but I think they really set the tempo a lot. Rovella for the midfield, Tati for the front line, and Zakani as well. I wonder how much of that it affects the team's sort of urgency because I mean, if you see Rovella and both Tati are all constantly on people saying, "Let's go, push, 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 let's keep going, let's keep it up." Like, and I wonder how much that made an effect today. I don't know how that impacted the team. I'm certainly, of course, not having Nolan instead of Tati up top affects the team. Rovella in there,
Yeah,
Bashiru instead of Rovella. So I wonder how much of that is comes down to not having sort of those two pillars there. But regardless, I think that's what makes it so upset today. It's so upsetting is that you at least expect the effort. I think that's just the bare minimum. You expect urgency, effort, and that willingness to fight and push and do that, and and just go hard, combat. Just didn't seem to be there for most players.
yeah. Well, look, it is important to note that Tati, and Rovella, two central figures, particularly in just how we play. You think about how Tati is such a key piece in involving so many people around him. And today, Noslin just what was really, really invisible. And so now you're forcing guys to do so much on their own without that key figure like a Tati who, whatever about his finishing, but he gets others involved. And so today, yeah, I think particularly in the final third, it was if we weren't going to have an individual kind of take over, you really did. You saw the one time, the only moment was that Zakani playing it into Dia. But outside of that, I mean, it was like it was Isaacson trying to go one on one, easy to defend. Isaacson had a chance in the box where it was like he shifted the ball to his right foot, and I was like, okay, great, shoot. And then he had to shift it back to his left, and I was like, but that's you're on the left. Like if you're gonna take a shot, it's gonna be near post. You're not gonna score that goal. And the time was missed at that point, and so yeah, it was really really dreadful. Let's go to your man of the match.
Zakanyi for me. I just felt him. I think really only him and Guendouzi seemed to sort of have any sort of effort today in what they were doing. Zakanyi, poor guy. He seemed like he was completely by himself in the attack today. It's like this man was he was trying his hardest to make something happen, made something happen. It was completely blown off by Dia, right? He did make that moment happen. He stepped up as the captain, made that moment happen to set up Dia for what should have been an opener. If Dia scores that opener, right, it's a completely different game. I think we'd probably go on to win at least 2-0 or something like that. But so Zakani for me was the man of the match.
Yeah, yeah,
He really tried to set an example. The people just didn't play. His teammates just didn't follow him. I don't know.
yeah. He was my man of the match too. I mean, you saw again, and he was the only one in that attacking quadrant that had any sort of success that was pushing on, even late in the match. Right, he commits a foul, but like I liked it. It was the only one. Like he was like, we got to win this ball back. I mean, there's seconds left. I do want to give a big shout out to Beleyan. I thought he was actually pretty damn good coming in. His first appearance for Lazio. I thought he should have started. Dele Bashiru was pretty poor. And I thought this was the match. And like, had Dele Bashiru not gotten injured, would we have seen Beleyan? Like, I mean, at this point, we've made signings. Beleyan is the most Serie A ready. The guy has been playing all season in Serie A, is literally the Rovella esque player to replace. So I was hoping we would see him from the jump, but it was good to see him. I thought he was really really sharp. Some moments early on where he had to ease his way into the game, but I thought he was lively. I thought he looked pretty good. What do you think overall of him?
Yeah, I thought he's pretty good. He's definitely a player better suited to matches where you're having a lot of the ball. Um, and I think I love the way he can play out of pressure and stuff like that. Is tidy with the ball. I do think like in a game like this, even though we saw a limited time from Bashido and it wasn't amazing, I do think that Bashido still has a knack for goal at times, and I would have liked to have seen. I don't know. I don't really know. I don't think Nelson up top is the move. I would love to see Nelson. I would like to see Nelson maybe shifted out to right wing. Saxon was getting covered pretty well. Nelson has better. He's a little more 2-footed. Please God, like see Dia up top at the 9. I don't understand. I really don't understand how Baroni goes into these matches still and is like, okay, you have Dia who's played the 9 his whole career. And then he just like, no, you are 100% just a second striker. Like, I don't know why he keeps pinholing him into that position where I think that we could have benefited from having a Dia up top and maybe a Pedro behind who was poor today. But I thought Belayan was a good player. I'm not surprised. Like, this is kind of what I expected. He's played in City A before. It should have been a pretty comfortable game for him to come into. So I'm glad he got some minutes. That's one of the few positives to gain from this.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it shows us that we do have somebody there that can play, at least. But a lot of players today that underperformed that are deserving of the bidone. I've got some candidates. There's guys that in particular that would be a first time shout for them in a while, but I mean, man, the list it just rattles off. Like I think there's a lot of players that were bidones, but I'm gonna give mine, and it is because of the really bad moment, and it's Dia for me.
Yeah.
You miss. I mean, we have one opportunity, right? Like I would have given it to Tati if it was Tati. It's Dia, same thing. He's been really clinical. He was the guy that saved us last week,
Yep.
and the man that let us down. And look, it's not just for that. Like had he had a really good match, and he's kind of everywhere and flying around, but it was like Noslin, like Isaacson, like pretty invisible for the most part. Was really frustrated in some moments where he's receiving the ball and like the first instinct is to play it back to our center backs, and then the miss is the miss. So who'd you have?
Yeah, I mean, it was deal for me as well, simply because, again, I've given bidones to Tati because he didn't step up when when Dia was out, and he was sort of seen as the guy in the game like that. And yeah, obviously, want to have the same standards for someone like Dia, who, I mean, if it was just like a half chance, it would be different, but it genuinely was a sitter. I mean,
Yeah.
the irony is he's that game tying goal was a really similar actually build up. It was Sakai cutting in, and then Dia makes sort of this diagonal run into the box. Sakai lays it into him, and he finishes on the left. It was almost identical to the Napoli one, but the Napoli one was way harder because he
Yeah,
shot
his
the shot.
finishing had to be perfect at
Yeah,
that
he
Napoli line.
shot the shot nearly at the top of the box. He took a touch, quickly and we just slotted it. It was even harder. And he did everything right. He's like, Kanye had a great weighted ball. He had a great first touch because that's always sort of the thing that's sort of killed like Nolson's attacks in that situation is he takes a poor touch and the chance goes away. But Dia had a great first touch to set him up for that hit with the left foot and somehow just skied it. Again, it was harder to sky it the way he did than to just put it on frame.
Here's
So
the stat. Here's just to back up your point that this was a sitter. This was a missed goal. Like sometimes we can say that, right? And it's like, well, look, there's a lot to do. There's this or that. The XG on that was a 0.9. It was a 0.9. Like he he
Oh my gosh,
he should have scored a goal.
that's. I mean, that's
Like
we would knew it.
it's calculated as virtually a goal.
I mean, the eye test is very clear. It was a sitter, but it's crazy because sometimes we always generally when I assume a shot, the XG is normally a little lower than I always expect.
Yeah, his
But
XG today
point
was
nine is
0.9.
crazy.
Yeah.
Oh my god. I mean, enough said. But I'm not gonna actually say the. I was just supporting your point. I'm gonna go Tavares. I thought he was just completely. I don't know what I was watching out there. It looked like it was just a pickup game on a Sunday evening for him. Just little passes out of the back, just lazy passes. I don't know what was going on. He would make these passes. He would see someone very clearly. There was someone in the lane, and he just kind of like, just let me just chuck it in there. Why not? Boom, gets beat. We're in transition all of a sudden. It's fortunate that it wasn't against the better side, but I thought Tavares was really, really poor today. Maybe his worst game of the season.
Yeah, I think so because again, like some of his bad performances, right? He's had a red card. He's had performances where he's been woeful defensively, but he's doing something in attack. This one really was like he was out there to get a little bit of a jog. It's just like a guy that didn't want to be there. It didn't make sense. So like the substitution I thought was warranted 100%. Here's another Bidone candidate that I had. Like we talked about Dia, Nuno, like Noslin was poor. But the one I was referencing that, just is never on any of our lists because he's always so solid. I thought Gila was really bad.
Yeah.
I thought Gila was so often out of position, and he does that. But there wasn't the cover. You didn't have Rovella in there. He was poor with some of his passes, and even like Venezia in the 74th minute, they're on a counter, and Gila just gets taken out. Like I don't know if it was probably a combination of poor surface. Like he slipped, but there's a nice cut the Venezia player takes in. And that's where Mandas was forced to make a full stretch save. I thought Gila was really poor, which is usually not the case with him. Like he was beat a couple times, like his pace wasn't quite there. And that all the ads like sets the tone. Like there's certain standards that we have where like, okay, if this isn't going well, like we know are inconsistent players, right? We know it's like, well, Tati from a finishing standpoint, hit or miss, but you're typically like you have this consistency in his effort and certain things like Sakani, you know what you're gonna get. Rovella, you know what you're gonna get. Gila, Romagnoli, you know what you're gonna get. Your wild cards are like Marusic, Lazzari, Zaxon. So even Nuno, like okay, there's the thing like what you're gonna get, and so when your consistent players are the ones coming in playing just a little bit off, it shakes the foundation of your side. And against a Serie B side, you still hope that it is enough. I mean, my word, 90th minute, 85th minute, I'm still waiting for some sort of a click. And Venezia was the side more desperate to score in this one, which says a lot. And I know, you said like, well, these are on individuals, and they are, but I start to wonder and question, like, there's still the piece that the manager has to get everybody like amped up a little bit and prepared and focused. That's just the piece that I think Baroni has to learn
Yeah.
and figure out a way to spark some life into this side.
Yeah, just really odd. Yeah, it's just I honestly, I'm really at a loss for words. I don't even know what I could possibly say about that, where I could speculate. But um, we have a tough sort of stretch ahead here. How are you feeling about it?
Man, I'm not. I don't know. I'm not feeling great. We've got Inter in Coppa Italia. Um, I want to see us take it serious. I mean,
Mm.
yeah, it's an important cup for us, and you're at this stage in the tournament. It's quarterfinals. You know, I'd like to see us. I'd like to see us. I mean, it's Tuesday. Here's the. I mean, the problem for us is always going to be the ability to manage multiple competitions, which goes back to the frustration in this one um, being that we had a full week. I don't know. It's Tuesday Inter and then Sunday Milan. I think it's enough time to still go all out and recover, but yeah, don't I don't know. Tell me. I guess give me your thoughts on Europa. The Europa draw took place. We know we are playing in the round of 16. There was a possibility we could have gotten Roma, but we are on opposite sides of the bracket now, which could make for the biggest derby ever if we were to
Mm.
meet in the final. But we've got a Victoria I don't even know how to pronounce their name, but
Me
uh,
neither.
side who we've never faced before. That on paper, pretty solid draw for us. But I guess my question to you, Caleb, would you have rather faced Roma? Like, do you?
No, God, no. No, 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 no. I think we got exactly what we deserved to get, which was the easiest possible path to the semifinal. I think it's completely warranted that if we would have gotten Roma after finishing first in Europa, what's the point? What's the point at that point, right? I,
Yeah,
I think I think that we 100% deserved the easy route. We have the easiest little pod by far
yep,
in Europa, but we earned that. So I think that um, being able to sort of slowly get into the Europa competition, have not have such demanding games mentally, physically early on. We still got to show up, of course, because expectations are going to be to win these. But there's a good chance we will face um, we will face inferior competition until the semifinal. And
yep,
the semifinal and the final games are going to be the really big ones. Is potentially we'll face a Tottenham in the semifinal. We might face an Ajax or a Frankfurt in the semifinal. And then the final, of course. I mean, the other side of the bracket is completely stacked in terms of just like the what leagues those teams are playing in.
yep.
Um, but I think it's completely warranted that we got what we got. I'm really, really glad it wasn't Roma. Um, Especially with just kind of how the team's been feeling lately. I wouldn't have felt confident going into that, to be honest. And it's quite a game just to start out the competition with. That's draining. So I 100% think we deserved the exact draw that we got. That's what it should be that.
Yeah. No, I agree. I agree. I wasn't ready mentally for a derby right now, and especially a derby of
No.
that magnitude. I will add that Lazio always on the winning side when it comes to knockout phases against Roma, but not quite ready mentally myself, nor confident in our side at this moment for a match like that. But yeah, can you imagine a Europa League final? Uh, Lazio Roma. I mean, I, I'll be honest. UEFA should be rooting for that because
Right.
it would be quite spectacular. So we've man, we've got to trudge along in this season. That is a glimmer of hope. The odds did come out, and Lazio are the favorite to win this tournament. From what I seen at most recent, I don't know after this Venezia performance, but yeah, we've got a side that at least in Europa has looked strong. We'll be without likely without Tati.
do we
Lazio
know? Do we know? Do we know how long he's out for?
I don't know. I don't know. And then Vicino still likely out another 3 weeks to a month is what I've heard. But yeah, I mean we can't get Tati back fast enough. So man, he's just such an important piece for how our attack is going to play. I worry a little bit. I mean, this is March 6th. This is next, 2 weeks before this Europa League. Not sure what Tati's, Patrick
And
Bowman saying 3 to 4 weeks. It's, and just to get his fitness back, I don't know. But I would like to see Baroni test something different. We can't keep rolling out Noslin in this same way and expecting a different result. So we'll see. Big matches. As always, please follow us on social, subscribe to this podcast. And we've got to be better. We've got to be better. But even amidst the just mud and slow tempo match that this was, it is sempre Forza Lazio.